Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Warming the Bench. It's Bev and Daniela here. Bev, how are you today?
I'm okay, to be honest with you, Dan. It's nice to be with you,
Mhm.
talking about our topic. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
absolutely, it is. We hope everyone is having a wonderful day, and you will be listening to this episode on Tuesday, so we're really excited to release it. We noted last week that we were going to be doing some club profiles. We had intention of starting with Arsenal in the WSL. Unfortunately, we ran into some technical difficulties, so we're actually going to pivot, and we're going to talk about Chelsea. I'm a fan of Chelsea, so this is going to be a little bit of like an interview-y type of podcast. It's going to be a little strange being the one asked questions instead of having the full conversation, but we're going to try to make it work. Bev's going to do her fabulous interviewing techniques, and we hope that you guys really enjoy this episode. It's going to be a fun one, personally. And yeah, these little club profiles are going to keep going. I think Bev and I have spoken. We're going to try to get as many in as possible, right, Bev?
Yeah, we absolutely did. Well, for lots of reasons, really, Dan, because we've got the WSL starting soon. So it'd be nice to do some bios on the different WSL and occasionally WSL2 clubs and
Yes,
across the pond as well, because there's only six clubs at the moment expecting to rise to eight, isn't there? So
there
it,
is.
it
Yeah.
would be nice to know something about what's going on over where you are, Dan, to be honest.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I know I've had a couple of people ask me about doing a little bit more in depth about the Northern Super League. So potentially in an upcoming episode, we can do a little bit of a breakdown of how this league came to be, because it's quite an interesting story from our side of it. And I think it'll be inviting for the audience to know a little bit more about leagues outside of England as well, and
Yeah.
get kind of a little bit of a different audience tuning into us as well.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's meant to be about women's football, and that's across the piece,
Mhm.
isn't it? That's everything, all embracing, if you
A-
like. We don't want to just
Absolutely.
keep it geared towards the WSL and WSL2.
Absolutely. And I know that we've spoken about this numerous times. We definitely are also, I know I've put some feelers out on my Twitter specifically because it reaches a kind of a bit of a larger audience. For anybody around that is wanting to speak with us, I know I have some Chelsea fans in Australia, but they also follow the Australian A-League women as well. So potentially we could have somebody come on and speak about the A-League women and what that looks like. So we're always open to these types of opportunities.
Yes, please do drop us a line. Get in touch. You've got our email. I think it
Mhm,
comes under the YouTube and Spotify. To do if you don't want to kind of leave a comment, where
mhm.
everybody can see it, do get in touch via email. It's a little bit more anonymous, isn't it? And a little bit more personal, Dan.
Absolutely, and that way we can have conversations about what it looks like to set up calls and all that fun stuff. So get in touch with us however you want. We can always make it work.
Right then. Okay, Dan.
All right,
I'm
all
going
right.
to interview you about
Okay.
Chelsea. Okay, get
Yes.
yourself limbered up. I
I'm
promise not
here.
to bite.
I'm good. I'm all stretched. I'm stretched. I did my stretches. I'm all good.
I'm not that scary. Right then.
No, you're
Occasionally.
good.
Anyway, Dan, I know that obviously you live in Canada
Hmm.
and you actually come all the way over from Canada to
Hmm.
watch Chelsea matches, Chelsea women matches. I
Yes,
can remember that you came all the way over to watch the Champions League. Was it the quarter
mhm.
final against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge earlier this year?
I did. Yes, and the year before I did with Man City as well.
With Man City as well. Wow. You have to be extremely dedicated to fly all the way over from Canada. So, my first question is, Dan, how did you first become a Chelsea women's supporter?
Oh my goodness, we have to throw it back to the 2015 Women's World Cup. I've always been a Chelsea fan just from being a football fan because my family has watched football since I was an infant. So I was always aware of the club in general, and I knew that the club had a women's team. But obviously, we're talking now 11, 12 years ago. It was not as accessible as it is today. But the 2015 Women's World Cup we hosted in Canada, and a lovely little player called Fran Kirby was about to sign for Chelsea, or she had just signed for Chelsea. I can't remember exactly. And I remember just saying, "Oh, she's fantastic, first of all. And I wonder where she plays football." And it happened to be that she was on her way to Chelsea. And that triggered me to say, okay, I need to get more involved with the women's team. And ever since then, I have been a fan and have downloaded crazy apps and gone on streaming platforms and everything when it was not as accessible as it is now to try to figure out how to watch games, follow them from afar. Not always the easiest, but that's pretty much how the women's side specifically of the club started for me as a fan.
I mean, it sounds incredibly exciting, Dan, flying all the way
Mhm,
over from Canada. I have to
mhm.
say, you do sound like Michelle Kang, to be quite frank.
I wish. I wish I had her jet, I'll be honest with you sometimes, but yes,
Or
that's
Jet.
hilarious.
Or I wish I had her money, Dan, to be quite frank with
That,
you.
well, that too, yes, definitely. It kind of goes together, right? If you've got the jet, you definitely have the money for it.
It just does sound incredibly glamorous, Dan. It really does.
Mhm, mhm,
So when you get to Stamford Bridge, do
mhm.
you meet up with anybody? Is there a group of like supporters, Chelsea supporters, or do you go on your own? What does it actually mean to you to be a Chelsea fan?
Yeah, definitely. There's always a supporters group, and the supporters group are really cool about people coming over. There's a handful of individuals who've come from different parts of the world for matches and do quite regularly, which I personally love because I'm also one of them. Sometimes we meet up, sometimes it's more of a whoever I'm sitting with, we just chat and whatever it is at the games. Um, so it really just depends, but definitely is supporter heavy, and there's a lot of support from the supporters for non-local fans, which is really comforting. And they've always been very helpful. I remember my first couple of times coming over to London, getting just where should I stay, the tube, like understanding how that all worked and everything. Very, very helpful and kind group of individuals, which has made every experience really fun, but also felt safe and felt very comforted and supported. And it's also made me now, I know exactly where I need to go when I go places. So if anybody comes in and says, I'm a new fan, or I'm coming over for the first time from the United States or from Australia or whatever it is, can somebody help me? Now I find myself answering questions as if I live in London or something, which is so funny. But now I know how to, get to the stadium, how to get tickets, all these sort of things, and that's helped me really help other people with remembering how everyone supported me and was so helpful to myself as well.
Gosh, it really sounds as though everyone is truly committed to the club. I mean, I
Hmm.
know there are a lot of, generally speaking, there are a lot of truly committed women's um, game supporters, aren't there? Just of the women's game alone. But
Exactly.
it just, I mean, when we did a pod on fandom and we
Hmm.
broke it down, and one of the things it came across is that being a fan of the women's game is so much more than that. It's about identity. It's about a shared space and connection.
Absolutely.
The game is bigger than the actual players. There's more to be, the young girls fighting for their future and
Hmm.
dreaming big. All these kind of things. Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, completely. You know, Similar to how we say that players don't just get to be players, they have a responsibility. Um, and then a responsibility, not in a way that feels like they're obligated to, but they do it because of a passion. I think fans are the exact same way. They want to grow the game. They want to have the game front and center. They want supporters to be engaged. They want supporters to feel like they are welcome and they belong in matches. They belong in the club and all the above. So I think it's a twofold thing. We love it as football fans, but we also want to make sure that everyone who is joining the game, whether they're an older fan, a newer fan, been from midway through the women's kind of growth, feel that they have a sense of purpose within whatever club you support, whether it's Chelsea or somebody else, and also just understand that the game is in a place where we can enjoy it, but there's also so much more that we can do to help others enjoy it or help others see the value of it as well.
It's fantastic. Now,
Hmm.
again, we've spoken about stadiums and how
Hmm.
they're configured, and that they've always been men centric because, obviously, for over 100 years, It's
Yeah.
been the men's game essentially, hasn't it? And also remembering that in this country, the women's game was banned for nearly, well, about 50 years and came back into being in 1971. So
Mhm,
bearing that in mind, is it that, can you just remind me, Dan,
mhm.
Chelsea play at Kings Meadow and then Stamford Bridge? I know there's a change now. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. They'll be playing
So,
at Stamford Bridge.
right, that's what I thought. But can I ask you, in
Mhm,
terms of configuration and being maybe woman friendly,
mhm.
what do you prefer if you've ever been there or heard conversations about Kings Meadow V
Mhm.
compared to Stamford Bridge? You know, what's the vibe there?
Yeah, well, it's a lot smaller, obviously. It's not a massive stadium as if, like the Premier League club stadiums. Configuration, I believe it's fairly similar. It's not purpose-built for women. Kings Meadow was something that the club acquired, which was a good investment for themselves. But it's not specifically made for women, just like Stamford Bridge isn't. So there's definitely a lot of drawbacks to that. It's a little bit less accessible as well, which is not a woman thing, of course, but it's
Mm.
a little bit less accessible. So not maybe in the frame of mind for a lot of people, but definitely not women friendly in regards to how we would maybe want it. When you go to the restroom, it's always lineups for the ladies' room because that's all the time, unfortunately. And there's mostly women that attend games, and there's obviously men, but those restroom lines, like those sorts of things, are
Yeah.
obviously a lot different. Not that that would change in a female. Built system. You would hope that you still have, restrooms for men as well, of course, but there's just small things like that. But accessibility wise, Stamford Bridge is a lot more accessible just for everybody in general, not just for women, of course.
Well, the point is economy of scale, isn't it? Is a lot
Mhm.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I do believe, though, they have more, Stanford Bridge has a little bit more family accessibility. They've had dedicated areas for families as well. So they've tried to make that accessible. If you're, especially if you're coming with small children, maybe there's a stroller or a pram, as you guys would refer to it, that you
Yeah.
need. There's a little bit more spaces for that. So they've definitely tried to do that. But of course, it's different when it's been built in a specific way. So you have to try to make those spaces versus it being built specifically for those spaces.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Now, Chelsea was founded in 1992. Do
Mm.
you know much about the history of Chelsea? Are you able to tell me who founded Chelsea women's football team?
Oh, I'm terrible with names, but the team was founded more officially in 1992, but they definitely have their history goes back to like the 1970s. um,
Yeah.
in terms of having a team. Obviously, it wasn't professional. There wasn't a professional league, but there definitely was times where they had the women's side of the club. They didn't. Sometimes they weren't very well invested in, so they kind of drew it back, and then they came back, and then 1992 was more of the official kind of inception, but still had issues with funding and with being properly supported, probably into the early 2000s, which would be more of the era where they started to kick on and really try to build a sustainable women's side. But names wise, I'm definitely terrible with names, so I probably couldn't tell you that one. But
Oh
yeah,
dear.
the history traces back quite a few years, but more officially, of course, into the 90s and the early 2000s.
Is this kind of contribute towards you becoming a fan as well because of that history? It's a very rich history, isn't it? Goes way back.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I've been a Chelsea fan in general, so
Mm.
the club is, one of the older clubs in England. So that historical side of it, I think that's what draws a lot of women's fans in, to big clubs to begin with, because some of them come with such great history, right? And then you
Yeah,
realize, oh, there's a women's team. Oh, I can support the entire club if I want to, or just one side of it, whatever it might
yeah,
be. So it's
yeah.
definitely part of it. That historical side is really cool. And when I think of football, I think more like if I had to dream up like what a traditional football scenario looks like England definitely comes to mind. So there was that draw of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, shall I tell you the name?
Yes.
Obviously, it was on the tip of your tongue, I could tell. So, the modern Chelsea was founded in 1992 by Tony Farmer.
Tony Farmer, that's it. Ah, yes.
Yes, he was a lifelong Chelsea supporter. He became
Yes.
interested in the women's football club due to his
Hmm.
girlfriend Val Lightfoot, who
Hmm.
joined Crystal Palace. So
Mm,
what he did, he wrote to Chelsea FC
hmm.
proposing that the club establish an official women's team, and they agreed, and he
Yeah,
became the first manager of them.
that's
Isn't that
it.
a
Tony.
wonderful?
That is wonderful. It's like a supporter making a change somewhere, and they said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" I love that.
Well, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I love to hear about people that are pioneers or make
Hmm.
things happen. They have an idea and off they go. There's no
Yeah.
stopping them. They're very, very intent. They're very focused, and they
Mm.
achieve so much, Dan.
They do. They do. And just a little quick offshoot when you talk about supporters, I remember I was watching a documentary on how one of the NWSL clubs came to be, the club in Los Angeles, Angel City. And that was a supporters group that wasn't even really a supporters group at the time because the club didn't exist, but it was fans of women's football there. And they petitioned the league for like 3 years with these campaigns, bring the NWSL to Los Angeles, bring the NWSL to Los Angeles. It became a group of people. And they really made this happen, which was crazy. So really when supporters, whether it's one, whether it's a group of them, get together, they can
Yeah.
create incredible things, especially in the realm of women's sports.
Oh, they absolutely can. Yeah. So, when in 2004, the turning point, they became affiliated with Chelsea Football Club.
Hmm.
And then in 2012, what do you think happened then?
That's when the Emma Hayes era kicked on.
Yeah, absolutely. She changed so much. I've watched a few documentaries about her. I've listened to her talk in interviews, Dan. Extremely, well, I'm just very taken. She's another one, isn't she? She has a vision
Yeah.
and she goes all out to achieve it.
Hmm.
So when you think about Emma Hayes' era,
Hmm.
what maybe top four words would you think about her era? If I can start off, one of them would be
Sure.
investment. One of them
Hmm.
would be investment. What would the other three be for you?
Ooh, Relentless,
Yep,
Dynasty,
yep.
and I'm going to say Ceiling Razor. That's kind of two words, but
Ah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah. Could you
definitely.
add a little bit more meat to those then, Dan?
Yeah, so Relentless, I would say Emma as a person is very, she's described herself almost as obsessive when she puts her mind to something. And
Yeah.
so Chelsea, as you mentioned, started out as a very small operation. They had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, okay, that's fine. And they didn't win anything in the first couple of years that she was there, most
Mm,
notably. But when they started winning, she would go and ask for a little bit more. And then they won a little bit more, and she said, let me win. Let's ask for more. And we
yeah.
need this, and we need this. We want to be successful. We want to be one of the most successful clubs in England. We're going to need X, Y, and Z to be able to do that. And she
Mm,
was relentless in her pursuit to turn this small operation into a successful women's team that was fully professional with everything that was required to be fully professional. And then Dynasty, I think that kind of speaks for itself. There was quite a stretch there where they were winning almost everything for 6 years or whatever it was. And dynasties happen across all sports, so it's not an unusual thing. But definitely Dynasty. And then the Ceiling Raiser is because of what Emma did. She raised kind of the profile of the WSL when it became a fully professional league, and she also raised the ceiling of what it means to have a women's team and what that should look like in terms of professionalism and in terms of not treating women as a secondary option to something.
yeah. That's very much her mantra, isn't it?
Mm. Oh,
I've,
100%.
yeah, I mean, I've been listening to her recently, and she's been talking about production, TV production,
Hmm.
and getting the cameraman to think about, or the camera woman, I must add, very quickly, um,
Hmm.
that when they're zooming in on things, don't zooming in on their bodies, certain
Yeah.
angles of their face. You know,
Hmm.
women are judged very heavily on what they
Yeah.
look like. and they're body shamed and all the rest of it. And I think
Hmm.
that was the point that she was trying to get across. So
Completely.
she really, I mean, she really, really does breaking it down in minute detail, doesn't she, Dan?
She does, and she's done so much in terms of that, in terms of what women need, what female athletes need to be successful, what that looks like, purpose, plans, training, nutrition, period, health. There's so many things that Emma did, again, in that professionalization side of it that made others take notice and say, oh, well, look what she's doing, and this is because of this reason. Maybe we need to be doing the same thing so we can try to be as successful.
Absolutely. Well, the four words that I had were investment, professionalization, culture,
Hmm.
and transformation, which
Hmm.
in a way were pretty much the ones that you had, weren't they? I mean,
Absolutely.
professionalism, everything around player welfare, tactical
Hmm.
standards, a professionalized culture. I mean, we
Yes.
think about oh, what's her name? Sam Kerr coming in at the end of 2019 and into COVID era, if you remember.
Yeah.
And she brought with her all her fans and all her supporters, and
Hmm.
that became quite a thing for them at the time. So, not just the players, but who did they bring with them? Their supporters, who was on
Hmm.
Twitter and all the rest of it, didn't they? So, they
Absolutely.
really, really, along with Paul Green, really fought about setting those foundations and taking them forward, transforming the women's game, I would argue, at that
Hmm.
point.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. And Emma used to work in the 2000s. She worked at Arsenal, for those who
Mm.
don't remember. So she very much had influence from Vic Akers, for example, of what it looks like to run a successful club. And I know she used some of those lessons and some of those learnings from that time and applied it when she became Chelsea manager too.
So we, yeah, because I mean, Arsenal were around about the same time. Who did it better, or who has done it better? Chelsea or Arsenal, or are they? Have they got their own individual strengths and weaknesses, shall we say?
I think they have their own individual things. Arsenal are probably, not probably, they are arguably the most successful club in English women's football, domestically, of course. And they definitely had the professional side of it or semi-professional side of it a lot earlier, and they had that investment a lot earlier. We're talking about like in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. Almost every one of those players of a maybe the 40 and over age group right now had played for Arsenal at some point because they were so successful, but because they also had the backing. So that's definitely part of it. I think Arsenal were the pioneers of it, and Chelsea kind of stepped in at another time and looked at that and then built upon it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Still staying with Emma Hayes' era.
Hmm.
They have players like Frank Kirby, Millie
Yeah.
Bright, Erin Cuthbert, still there, Sam Kerr,
Hmm.
just departed. Not,
Hmm.
I have to say, she is still alive. She's just come over to the
I
other
know.
side. Prunella Harder, and
Yeah.
we were writing, etc. Of all
Hmm.
these players of that era, who was your
Hmm.
favourite? Who I think I probably already know, but who stood out for you and why?
Fran Kirby, for sure.
Yes.
Um, but I'm gonna give a little small shout to Ji So Yoon as well because Ji was probably a player who was ahead of her time in terms of
Yeah.
her playing and her skill. Probably not as valued as she maybe would have been had her prime been right now. Um, and G was also, if you ever hear of other players that have previously played for Chelsea, the ones maybe that have retired or have moved on, anytime they get asked who is your favorite player to play with at Chelsea, 99% of them say G. And I think that just speaks to her skill level and her being a good teammate, but just what kind of a player she was, absolutely incredible. And Frank Kirby speaks for herself. I mean, in her day, she was arguably the best player, probably in the WSL in her prime. And it was an absolute blessing to be able to watch her all those years at Chelsea. Unfortunately, she did struggle quite a bit with her health and her injuries. And I just sometimes think about had that not happened, what kind of legacy, even more so that she would have left for Chelsea, because I can imagine that goal count would have been obscene had she been completely healthy the entire time. And she's the top goal scorer of the club. So you can imagine that's with all of those things that happened to her.
Yeah, I think that Fran Kirby still she's still got that brilliance about her. She really has. And I've not heard anything yet about whether she's going to continue with Brighton for another year. I mean, that's lots of different things have been kicking around, or that she
Yeah.
might go into punditry, as you mentioned at the beginning of the pod.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I'd like to see her do another year because I think Brighton are building well, and I think
Yes.
she will take them forward as a
Hmm.
player and then as somebody feeding into the direction, future direction of Brighton. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I think it seems from I just took a quick little glance on their social media. It seems that she's in training, so it sounds like she's going to be
Oh,
there for another
Brill.
year, thankfully.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's she's I think she's done wonders for Brighton to raise their profile as a club with all of her experience and her obviously her playing ability and everything, but I think she's a good leader in her own right. And that's taken some time. If you listen to Frank Kirby, that's taken some time for her to get there. She's been admittedly saying, I wasn't always the best teammate back in the day, and that's taken a lot of learning curves for her. But I think that is only benefiting now her Brighton teammates as well. And then if she decides to go into punditry, what a gift because she's fantastic. I could listen to her on comms all day, so I really hope she does at some point.
Yeah, so do I. I think she's very good. Well, of course, she's very good. You've just
Yeah.
mentioned the learning curves that she's gone through, and
Hmm.
somebody that goes through those kind of learning curves, well, that's very honest. So
Hmm.
you've got to say, that she's got that courage within herself, her self-awareness, and the leadership that she brings. I think it will be great, whatever she does in the future, to be quite frank with you. So
Absolutely.
moving things on a bit. I mean, under Emma Hayes, Chelsea were incredibly successful, but
Mhm.
they never won Europe. They never won the Champions League. Why do you think that was, Dan?
I think at first they were not equipped to do so. So if you look at when they really started first competing in Champions League, like the late, like 2018, 2017, there's a year that they missed out. And then they did go to the Champions League final about 5 years back and got battered by Barcelona. Who hasn't been battered by Barcelona at some point in their club? I think it's a rite of passage. So good luck to everybody on that regard. But and I don't think they were equipped to do so. And then after that, I personally feel that it's become more of a mental block than anything else because they have had the squad year on year to compete to get there. There's just something, for whatever reason, it's almost like their Achilles heel. They just cannot get past that side of it.
Yeah,
And they are capable of doing it. That's what is stopping me from saying, oh, they just don't have the squad to do it. They do. There's something mentally that's just maybe because of that battering. It's like they always go back. They're like, oh, we can't do this. But that was so long ago now. You got to put that out of your brain and realize that you are very capable. Even in Sonia's first year, when they again got battered by Barcelona, you noticed coming back last season when they had to play them in the group stages or the table stages, whatever it's called now in the Champions League, it was a one-all draw, and you realize, oh no, you can compete with these guys. Like you can absolutely get past these incredible teams. It's just is that block going to stop you from doing it? So I think it's more of a mental thing than anything else, and they need to just defeat the demons of that and move forward.
it really does exist. I truly believe that mental
Yeah.
block do exist. I mean, I
Hmm.
apply that to England when, they spent
Hmm.
years trying to get over the
The line.
semi-final stage
Yeah.
and they couldn't. And
Hmm.
eventually, obviously, they needed to change things in order to do that. So when
Hmm.
Emma Hayes left,
Hmm.
did it worry you that Chelsea might go into decline?
Um, no, and I don't say that with I hope that doesn't come across as arrogant because I'm
Mm,
not saying that I would expect them to continue on. I thought that there would be a period of transition,
yeah,
and the first season when she left, okay, yes, the Champions League didn't go well, but domestically racked up a treble. So
yeah,
that thinking of, ooh, when's this transition actually coming, was that, oh, maybe that's not coming. But I knew in the back of my mind, yes, it would. I didn't think they would decline significantly. I just don't think that's the standard of the club. And the
Yeah,
players that were there, the coaching staff, everything in the background is set up so that they do not do that. It was more
yeah,
of when's this transition actually going to come, and what is it going to look like? How long is it going to be? Type of thing. Versus, I didn't actually think they would decline. I was never really totally worried about that. Just the transitional side of it.
yeah. Okay
Yeah.
then, thank you.
Mhm.
So, should Chelsea under Sonia Bompastor be judged against Emma Hayes or allowed to create her own identity?
She absolutely should not be
Mm,
judged under Emma, and I think she is unfortunately still um,
yes.
judged under Emma. Yeah, and when I talk about
Mm,
that transition, it's happening now. We started to see it last season, and it's definitely happening now with departures and how the squad is taking shape. And I think Sonia should be judged based on how that transition is being handled and what comes after it, because judging her against Emma's legacy and what Emma built is unfair to her. It's unfair to the players, and it's really unfair to the fans because now we're asking someone to basically be in the shadow of another person that she didn't ask to be in.
yeah.
So it should come on her own results and her own kind of shaping of the club versus what came before her.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The
Hmm.
point was that Emma decided to move on, and in
Correct.
her mind, and she said she got to the point where she was absolutely exhausted,
Hmm.
because it was week in, week out. At least
Yeah,
as a national coach, she can get some time off in between, and be with her family, which had become a
exactly.
priority for her. And I completely understand. She
Hmm.
wanted to put her son first, and totally get it. Totally
Hmm.
get that. Yeah.
Completely.
Um,
Absolutely.
when thinking back to when Arsenal won the Champions League, because I know that Chelsea, everybody is following. They're trying to get into the top three initially, or the WSL clubs,
Hmm.
and then obviously they want to win the Champions League. That's the pinnacle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when Chelsea won the treble and
Hmm.
Arsenal won the Champions League,
Hmm.
all things considered, who was most successful that year?
Um, I think they were both successful in different ways. I
Okay.
think for Chelsea, it was successful because, all things considered, under a new coach, you wouldn't have expected that type of success at the end of the season. There was a lot of chatter. Ooh, is this going to be the season where they do go through that transition and maybe things are a little less successful than normal? And then Arsenal were successful in another way because their season to that point had been pretty much a disappointment. And for them to go in and win the Champions League was very unexpected. So anytime
Yeah.
anything is unexpected, and they were heavy underdogs going into that game, and they knew that themselves. So
Yeah.
anytime that happens, of course, it's going to be a success, and it's a European title, which is what a lot of teams dream about doing. So I think it was success in different ways and for different reasons.
Mm. Yeah, looking at it from that point of view, absolutely.
Hmm.
Part of me thinks that Chelsea really they to win the treble.
Hmm.
That takes a lot, Dan. That
Yeah.
takes consistency.
Hmm.
Whereas Arsenal, in a sense, that takes like a moment of brilliance. I know they have to be consistent to get through each of their qualifiers and their group stages and all the rest of it to get to the semi-finals and then final. I know that was
Hmm.
superb. Of course it was.
Of
I'm
course.
not taking that away from them. But overall, Chelsea are
Hmm.
consistent year in, year out. They just they
Hmm.
keep to a standard, Dan, and that's got to be, in Chelsea's favour.
Yeah, it's in their DNA for sure. And I think that's why last
Mm,
year in isolation, if you take last season in isolation, was so disappointing because there's a certain standard that has been created now that anything less than that standard is, oh, well, that just wasn't good enough. It needs to be
yeah,
better. And you'll
yeah,
notice Aggie Beaver Jones signed a new contract this year for 4 years, and she's
mm,
been in the media saying that, you know, they sat down, she sat down with Sonia and they had a really honest conversation. She was like, Aggie, as a 22-year-old, was like, this is not Chelsea. And she realized Sonia was like, this is not the Chelsea that I want either. And it was a very honest, brutal conversation. Like, these are our standards, and we fell very short of our standards. And maybe that's Aggie's DNA because she came up through the academy, so she really knows that the Chelsea way, quote unquote, and she understands what that looks like. But if the players are noticing that and the coach is saying, this is not, I know that this is not up to the standard, it's that expectation that has been set maybe a little high with a transitional squad, but that's just
Mm.
basically the Chelsea way. It's the same way across the club. There is a certain level, and anything slightly below that level is just deemed not acceptable.
Yeah, I was just gonna, that leads beautifully onto my next question. I mean, you've said, in a sense, Chelsea fans have been very spoilt because
Yeah.
their expectation is that they're winners and they expect to win every
Mhm.
season, yeah?
Mhm.
So, do you think sometimes that that expectation actually clouds celebration?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Mm,
You talk about the treble, it was an unbeaten domestic treble, which for most teams would be incredible. And it was incredible, but there was in the back of everyone's mind was, we did not win the Champions League, though. So it's like,
yes,
it's
yeah,
never good enough. It's never
no,
good
I know,
enough. Exactly.
yeah.
And some of the players, Millie Bright was afterwards, she said, yeah, it was incredible, but the back of my mind was we didn't win the Champions League, and that was like the failure of the season, right? So
Mm.
it's very much, and that's, trickled on from the Emma Hayes era. And I think that's why Emma fits so well with the United States women's national team because they very much have that same attitude of it's never good enough what we do. And it's a blessing and a curse at the same time because you can never be satisfied really. And anything, like I said, that's slightly below that is deemed a failure, which for most teams would be, oh, that's pretty good. Like, what do you mean? But yeah, it's their own expectations on there.
My last question for Chelsea, and then I thought we could do a hot take and then just let
Sure.
the viewers know what our next topic is for next week. So when
Yeah.
people look back in 20 years' time,
Hmm.
will Chelsea women's greatest legacy be the trophies they won, or the way they helped redefine what fully professional women's football club looks like?
Personally, I think their legacy will be what they did for the women's game.
Yeah.
The trophies are fantastic, and Chelsea fans will always, just go look at the trophy cabinet. That's kind of their pointer to everything. But I think their legacy is definitely going to be rooted in how they raised, like I said, the ceiling of the women's game and forced other teams to do similar things in their own clubs to continue raising the bar in the WSL. It's not like they did that alone, but what they did was they put themselves up there and said, "This is what we're doing. Now it's up to everyone to try to meet here, and then we can all build even more so upon that together." So they were kind of at the top there, and said, "All right, let's build on top of this, but you need to get here first, and we're going to force you in some ways to get here first." So I think that's going to be their greatest legacy and probably the one that they look back on and smile the most.
I lied, Dan, when I said that was the last question. I just thought of something else.
All good.
Thinking about, I mean, obviously Chelsea dominated. They won the title race for many, many years in succession. Do you
Mm.
feel though, there was a point where the WSL became a little bit predictable and, dare I say, a little bit boring because Chelsea were always the winners?
Yes, 100%. And it made me think of, okay, well, if that is and that was definitely the conversation, especially the last couple of years, it made me think of, okay, well, if that's the conversation, then what are we doing to make this not be the case? Where is
Yes.
the investment in other places? Where is that ambition to break into the top three, to take the league, that sort of thing. Man City obviously saw their opportunity finally and seized it, right? And that's fantastic because you don't want the same team winning year in and year out. I think that's why some people are so fit. They love the NWSL, for example, as a as a sidebar to this because it is so competitive in ways that you don't really see certain results coming sometimes, which is fun. That's the whole fun of football, right? You never see something coming. And of course, there's always going to be teams, no matter what league you're looking at, that are a little bit more supported or more resourced than others. But realistically, you don't want a team that, and this is crazy for me to say, but you don't want a team that wins 6 years in a row. That's not
No,
fun. It's not
no,
really that fun. I mean, it's
no,
great to have a
it
trophy,
isn't.
but it's not fun.
No, it absolutely isn't. But I think going into this season, Dan, I
Mhm.
wouldn't like to predict who the top
No,
three would be and in what order. I really
no.
wouldn't. And I especially think around position 3 and 4 and
Mm,
5, there's going to be a tough battle. I really do. I
I
hope
d
that
yeah,
will play out in that way.
I do too. I think so. I wouldn't, like you said, I wouldn't be making any predictions, honestly. I think anything can happen.
Mm,
And that's what we want. We want to go into a season and not know what the most likely outcome would be because it would be great to be at the end of the season and say, wow, I did not see this coming, ABC or whatever it was. And that's
yeah.
going to make for some great narratives and some great pushing on for the seasons to come as well.
Absolutely. I mean, who's to say that London City Lionesses don't come second or even first? Who's to say? I
Who's to
mean,
say?
do you know what I mean? Because everybody's thinking,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, your Chelseas, your Arsenals, Man
Hmm.
Cities, they've been long established. But,
Yeah.
Michelle Kang's not messing about.
No, she's not. And if certain teams, London City, one of them, Tottenham, if they click the way I think they will click, or you
Yeah,
hope that they will click, they can be extreme disruptors, and you never know. Arsenal, for example, historically, the last couple of years have started very slowly, and it's been the dagger in their season. I don't think they can afford to start slow. Any team can afford to start slow the season this year because you will be put under the pressure immediately from other teams that have been investing a lot and are ambitious to push you out of your spot specifically.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you. I
Mhm.
just, Tottenham's, well, I think, could be a bit of a dark horse this year.
Yeah.
They've invested very, very well, and
Hmm.
Martin Ho, he's really got a vision there, and he's got that intent. I think he's building something good.
Hmm. He is. Yeah. Tottenham are my ones to watch. I've really kind of pegged them as the ones that I think that they're going to make the most waves in ways like they could hopefully the North London derbies, for example, are not going to be so predictable. I think that they could absolutely give Arsenal some serious problems in those ones coming up. So they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank
Hmm.
you very much, Dan, for answering my
Oh,
questions.
thank you. That was
Um,
fun.
Good, yeah, it was, and I've learnt something.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I'm always open to learning. So
Hmm.
thank you very much for that.
Of
Hot take,
course.
Dan. Hot take. I've got one. I'm going to
Okay.
start if you don't mind.
No, go
Um,
for it.
it's been great that this year's fixtures have been spread around in terms of times.
Hmm.
And, many of them are now not clashing, and we've got some on the evening, Friday evening, Saturdays, afternoon,
Yeah.
Sundays, etc. That's great. But I
Hmm.
still have to say, I'm not convinced by Sky taking the majority of them and put them behind a paywall.
Hmm.
And also, there's been some pre-season matches over the weekend, hasn't there? Man City's
Yeah.
been one, Liverpool's been another.
Hmm.
Um, oh, what else? Who else, Dan?
A lot.
Oh,
Most of the
Chelsea.
clubs. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the clubs. And again, each of them, they weren't accessible. They were
Hmm.
put behind paywalls again of their own club subscriptions. So I'm not
Yeah.
very happy about that. I just don't think it's the right time to be doing this, Dan.
No, I don't either. Similar to what we said about the World Cup, Women's World Cup next year, in this part of the world specifically being put on Netflix, we're not
Mm,
there yet. And I think the clubs have, a lot of the clubs have their own YouTube channels, all these things. Those preseason friendlies could have been streamed on YouTube.
yeah,
That's not a paid thing. You can just, drop on. I understand why they do it, but like you said, it's not something that should be done right now, especially when it comes to like a preseason game. Who ca Like it's not. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. There's some of them they will play behind closed doors, and you're never going to see those. That's a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
But in terms of putting things behind paywalls now, the Sky situation, I was listening to um, individuals in England speaking about this specifically. I don't really agree with it, and I think it does quite a bit of a disservice.
Mm. I totally agree with you. It's,
Mm.
just again, we keep mentioning this, it's that rocket going off on the wobbly foundations, really,
Yeah.
it just stand back and
Hmm.
take a grip of it. I think BBC have got a few less, though, although they have won some of the Champions League games that they're
Games.
going to air free to view, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that last year. I must say,
Hmm.
because of the situation, I will be watching a lot of the WSL too, and some of those fixtures were absolutely fantastic. So
Hmm.
that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you. It's hopefully we can change this at some point, but it's a little bit of a worrying sign, definitely.
So, Dan, what's our next week's topic?
Next week's topic, actually, can I give a little small hot take when we're talking about preseason?
Yep.
Small one. It's very quick, I promise. Preseason, everyone calm down. That's all I'm going to say. Calm down. I'm seeing people freaking out about preseason games. Oh, Man City drew with Fiorentina. Who cares? That's the whole point of
Yeah,
preseason. It doesn't matter. It's literally, I could, when I say the results in preseason are the lowest thing that I think about, everyone just
yeah,
needs to calm down, okay, guys? There's a reason that preseason games go the way they do. There's a reason you don't see some of them. It's not that serious. The fact that Man City drew a game with Fiorentina over the weekend does not indicate what their season is going to look like. It is very likely they had kids playing in that game. That's probably why they drew it. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. Everyone needs to just calm down. Calm down about the preseason, guys. It's not that serious.
so Man City's lost already, or they won't
Oh
even be
my
in the top
God.
three. Oh dear.
Like, it's you're like, the general freak out of preseason always makes me laugh. And it's just, I just sit back and I want to watch it with popcorn because why are you guys freaking out about this? It's not that serious, guys. Just relax. That's my hot take. Preseason doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
So next week's pod, what's the topic, Dan?
Yes, so next week we're going to speak about initiatives that players are involved in off the pitch and
Hmm.
also potential career opportunities when they do decide to hang up their boots. Because there's a lot more opportunities now for women footballers to continue their careers in football in a way that
Yeah,
doesn't involve them playing. So we're going to cover a bunch of that. And there's some incredible initiatives and incredible opportunities that footballers do have that we want to chat about.
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Dan. And when's this pod coming out?
This is coming out on Tuesday, the 11th of August, so it'll be available shortly within 24 hours.
Oh, thanks ever so much, Dan. Well, have a
Absolutely.
lovely, lovely rest of your day and a
You as
lovely,
well.
lovely rest of your week. And I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. See you.
Bye.